Hi, my name is Kim Garst, and I want to share with you something that is kind of taking the social media space by storm. It's live streaming, and to specifically, we're going to talk about Periscope and what you need to know to get started on Twitter's hot new live streaming app, Periscope, and how to leverage it to build the know, like, and trust factor at a super accelerated rate. So, what is Periscope anyway? Periscope is a mobile app that allows users to live broadcast video from anywhere in the world in real time from their smartphone, specifically from an iPhone or an Android. And what you're going to learn in this training, what is Periscope, and again, why the opportunity is so hot right now, how to set up and be fearless doing your very first Periscope broadcast, because that's a big, huge problem for oh so many people, the secret formula to create scopes that followers can't wait to join. Tips and tricks to get your first 1,000 Periscope followers, because obviously without a community and people paying attention, that's something we want. We want to be able to share our message, get our products and services in front of the right people. And then last but not least, how to use Periscope to sell your products and services and grow your business. But again, why Periscope and why is the opportunity so incredibly hot right now? Well, Periscope has about 10 million users in the past 4 months alone. It was purchased by Twitter in January of 2015. It was opened up to the public on March the 26th. So a little over 4 months now, and we're at 10 million users as of the end of last month. It's, that would have been the end of. And just to kind of put some perspective on this, it took Twitter about 2 years to get 1 million users. It took Facebook 10 months to reach 1 million users. And it took Instagram 2.5 months or 2.5 months to reach 1 million users. And it took Periscope 10 days to reach 1 million users. So it's growing at a super, super fast rate. And frankly, it's totally superseded the kind of the title of fastest growing social media network. In the past, Instagram has held that record. I think now Periscope has superseded that record. And that's great. All those numbers are phenomenal. This is really the OMG moment. 40 years worth of content is watched each and every day on Periscope. Yep, let me repeat that. 40 years of content is watched every day on Periscope. So you may be sitting there with your mouth hanging open right now, like this picture, because it's like staggering, right? I mean, an incredible amount of content is being consumed every day. Now, granted, I'm sure there's a bunch of junk in there because it's the novelty of it, but as it continues to build out and more people, tune in and pay attention to what's happening on Periscope, it's going to be an amazing place to show up and build value and serve our communities. The reality is that some social media platforms are pretty crowded. It's hard to stand out. When there's so many other people doing the same thing, or, in some cases even look on the surface the same. For example, there's tons of social media, quote unquote, experts on every corner today. So in my space in particular, it's very crowded. But let me share with you a quick story. I heard the other day, this gentleman, his name is Alex Kahn. Now, Alex is actually a top periscoper. He saw the vision for it early on, literally day one, jumped in with both feet, and he's been building a community there ever since. Now, the interesting part is he had very few Twitter followers when he first started. In fact, about, maybe a couple of thousand Twitter followers. He has he has thousands of Twitter followers now. I think it's well over 35,000 Twitter followers now. So he has gone from being a relatively unknown, in the social media space anyway, to a superstar in the space of about 3 months. So it's given him a ton of visibility and built out his business and his brand at, again, a super accelerated rate. So that's really the opportunity that, as I see it, is, Periscope is an amazing way to build community community quickly around something that you are passionate about, whatever it is, whether it's your product or service is a solution for someone's problem. So you can be a leader in a space that is literally wide open right now. Even if you have a social presence in other places, you can again show up and either build or showcase your expertise in a value-based way that's going to attract your ideal customers on Periscope. And I think the relationships, well, I know the relationships that you form based on my experience, are going to be much deeper and more profitable because Periscope and its ability to build the personal connection. People are able to see you. They get a sense for your personality. It's the typical, video thing that, you've probably heard forever is, do video because it's the best way for people to get a sense for who you are, what your company stands for, etc. It's exactly the same thing with Periscope. It's an incredible medium to build out the know, like, and trust factor. And furthermore, I think, the opportunity is that you have the opportunity to be an early adopter. And, and be on the front side of this massive tidal wave, which is happening. It's, things are growing at a very, very rapid rate on Periscope. And again, I think it's such a wonderful opportunity. In fact, I think Periscope is a beautiful thing in a couple of different ways. For me, I've never been huge on video. It's always been kind of an elephant for me. I would, it's the perfectionist again. I'm a perfectionist, so I would have to I felt like everything had to be perfect. The video, the lighting, the camera, the editing, the whole nine yards. Well, for me, I think the beautiful part about Periscope is it's just an intimate and simplistic way to connect with your community. There's no editing, no fancy webinar slides, no countdown timers, no commercials. Just you sitting down in front of your phone and connecting with people. It's frankly a fantabulous way to build those deeper relationships. It also means that, what I'm so intrigued with is that whether you're a new brand or an old brand, we all have the same opportunity to build an intimate and loyal following with a global audience, and at an accelerated rate, which is, again, the real key to all of this. So Periscope is all about that in the moment sharing. People are loving the unscripted approach, and the more real you show up, the more engaged that your audience becomes. It's just incredibly amazing. It's very addictive because, again, people are just loving the real engagement piece. And, I just kind of think about this for a second. Where else, what other marketing medium can you set down and without any prior notice and without needing a landing page, a campaign built out in your email client, or a registration page for a webinar? You can sit down and talk to 10, 20, 50, 100, or thousands of people, and have an opportunity to share your product or service or your value. What solution do you have that solves somebody else's problem? I think this is probably the neatest and most coolest thing that I have seen lately. I think that's one of the reasons of why Periscope is such an awesome opportunity to build out an amazing community, a connected community, a deeper relationship-based community. Because again, people, not only do you get a chance to talk to them, but they get a chance to talk to you. It's a live engagement platform. And at the root of it, that's what social media is all about. Social media is not about impressions. I mean, we have to pay attention to those things, and I get that, and I'm not negating that. But the truth is that success on social media is built on relationships. So if your intent is to build a strong brand, your authenticity and integrity are critical to your success. So don't think you can really get out there and, be something that you're not. This is obviously Periscope brings a whole new layer to that because you can't hide behind the typewritten word or your computer screen. You're really out there. And I think that's the thing is people really can sniff out a fake and a heartbeat anymore, even through the typewritten word. So when you have an authentic brand and an authentic presence, showing up on Periscope gives you an opportunity that's unprecedented. The reality is that these days, the need for brands to be authentic is more important than ever before because of the rise of social media. And frankly, it's not that social media has changed the definition of authenticity. It's just that there are now more and easier opportunities for not just the company, but its customers to influence the brand image. So, when you can get in front of your ideal customers, your ideal clients, and bring value in a face to face way, oh my goodness, right? That's amazing simply because, again, people buy from those that they know, like, and trust. So you may be saying, okay, yeah, I get it. I get it, Kim. I hear you. There's an opportunity here, but I really, 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 can I say really again, don't need one more thing on my plate. I'm busy. I don't know if I have time for this, or I don't know if I have the resources. If you're a brand, you may be thinking, well, I'm not sure if I have time, or we may not have, the in-house resources to handle something like this. So I would just like you to hang out to the end because I have a challenge in place where I'd like to show you how you can actually take something that you're currently doing and transposing that or using that same process on Periscope in a way that actually saves you time. So hang in there with me because I'm going to share that with you at the end. So let's talk about how to set up for and be fearless doing your very first Periscope broadcast, because this can be a huge problem for people. The funny part about Periscope is you don't have to have any fancy equipment. You don't have to have the cameras, the lights, all of that, traditional video types of tools and resources that you had to have to do a high-end video. You really don't have to have that with Periscope. You can sit down with your smartphone, iPhone, iPad, or an Android phone, and literally connect with a community of people, which is really impressive. And, I just want to let everyone know that you're not alone. We all start in the same place on Periscope. We all start with one heart and one follower, and probably a lot of fear because there is that initial, oh my goodness, either it comes from not being sure of how to use the app, or it's a bigger picture of I'm not sure I can do this. But the reality is that I think we all have that moment of, looking at our phones and saying, oh my goodness, am I going to hit that start broadcast button? We just have to break that Periscope ice, essentially, and get over that piece because there's so much opportunity here. And the reality is, you don't even have to show your face if you don't want to. You can actually use the rear camera and show, maybe you're at an event, or maybe you're, showing behind the scenes things that are happening in your company. There's a gentleman in Paris who his name is Euro Maestro. And he has been scoping almost since day one, and he's never shown his face. So his whole strategy is to basically show up at touristy types of places like the Louvre and Eiffel Tower, for example, and show people things that they would maybe never in the ordinary course of life have an opportunity to see. And people are just snapping that up. They are loving that. People who've never been to the Eiffel Tower or never had an opportunity to see things through someone else's eyes are loving this. So technically, you can do, you don't even have to show your face. But I do believe you have to be passionate about, your message. And when you first get started, you're going to see all kinds of things. I've seen things from DIY stuff like putting on your makeup and teaching specific types of types like cooking and all kinds of things, which is, of course, again, very, a lot of people are really, really soaking up that type of thing. To the other side of the fence, where I would say, a lot of maybe junk. I guess it's in the eye of the beholder, obviously. But, I actually saw a scope one time where a gentleman was discussing who replaces the toilet paper roll when it's all gone. To include, do you pull from the top or the bottom? Now, the only reason I bring that up is he was incredibly passionate about that topic and he had people watching him, which to include myself, evidently, because I did tune in for just a minute to see what it was about because his title intrigued me. And so that's my point is it doesn't really matter what you share necessarily as long as you are incredibly passionate about it. From a business standpoint, again, what is our solution? Our solution is somebody else's. What we offer is the solution to someone else's problem, essentially. So being content driven and being value based, in my opinion, from a business standpoint, is where it's all about. What it's all about, showing up there just like you would on any social platform and delivering great value. But the neat part is you can actually practice with a friend before you get started, or maybe a couple of friends. There's a private setting on Periscope, so you can invite a friend or two to join you. You can kind of get familiar with the app and do all that literally before you ever go public, meaning public facing, where anyone can tune in and listen and connect to you. I think being prepared is also a critical piece of doing, getting over that fear factor. I know when I first started, it was very easy to tune in and pay attention to the comments, and I would go down a lot of rabbit trails. And so I think being prepared kind of keeps you really on track. Doing a short dry run before you hit broadcast is also a great strategy. Don't spend a lot of time doing this, but kind of repeat your highlights and, give yourself, hear yourself say it out loud a couple of times. I think that really does help. And then, best of all, and this is critical, don't panic when something bad happens or you would perceive it to be bad. And honestly, this happens all the time, guys. The reality with live streaming video is that things can go wrong in the moment, things that you can't edit out. And the beautiful part is people are totally okay with that. They totally get it. The only, thing about this and the reason I wanted to bring it up is the key is not to panic, just to laugh and go with the flow. Don't let it shake you or rattle you, because again, people get it. It's not a big issue. And one of the things that has really helped me is, when you're first getting started, there's that, kind of the front side, welcoming everybody, stating what your topic is going to be all about. Writing that down really will help you. It'll help you stay on track. I've even gone to a handheld whiteboard that I use to write the highlights on, so that it keeps me on track at a glance. And then I can show, I can hold it up at the end and show people. That way they can take a screenshot of it. And again, that keeps them from having to make notes or take notes, which people love. They love that I do that. So that's a great little strategy as well. And remember, if you have the courage to just hit that start broadcast button, you are in the top 1% of all Twitter users. I'm just saying, there is an amazing amount of content being consumed each and every day on Periscope, 40 years worth of content. Wouldn't you like a small slice of that pie? I mean, it's only going to grow too. So there's a tremendous opportunity here. Remember, you have the solution to someone else's problem. You have a big message to share, and the water's warm, jump on in. So the secret formula to creating scopes that followers can't wait to join. Let's talk about this real quick. I think it starts with being yourself. That's the critical first path to success on Periscope. And that's true, honestly, for all social. And one of the reasons I wrote the book, Will the Real You Please Stand Up? Because I think at the root of everything that we do on social media, it's about the authentic you and being just true to who you are, what your brand stands for. I think this is, it has to be, you have to show up and be true to your personality. That's what ultimately people are going to be attracted to. And, beyond that, I think that one of the very first ways that people are attracted to your content is through your title. It's kind of like social media headlines or your blog title, for example. And what's really amazing is no topic on Periscope is too small. I've even seen people with broadcast titles like, I'm bored, people will pop in and get a live audience. And I know it's crazy. I get that. So take a few extra moments and think of a title that would entice you to want to join in. That's the key, I think, is our titles are ultimately going to be why people decide to come into our scopes. And I think content is the bedrock, frankly, of all social media participation, whether it's a blog post, a podcast, a video, a tweet. Um, Essentially, it's the same exact thing on Periscope. All you're doing is creating content, and in some ways, you could repurpose and or reuse or just simply use some of the things I just said on Periscope versus creating additional content. We're going to talk about that. So I keep mentioning that, but hang in there because I'm going to definitely share with you how you do that. But if you can consistently produce compelling content that takes care of pain points in your audience, and you show up and you're live on Periscope, you're going to have an amazingly winning combination. And I've said this so many times in social media, we have to lead with value without the expectation of reward. And I think that's, again, a critical path on all of social. I think that's incredibly true also on Periscope. And I think beyond that, if you're serious and you really see the vision for Periscope, then I think you have to put a ring on it. You have to be consistent, show up, and be willing to bring value to a community on Periscope. Because there is a lot of, while there's not a ton of people broadcasting on Periscope at this point in time, there will be a greater divide going forward, in my opinion. And those who show up consistently and bring value on that platform, I think are going to ultimately be the winners. And then I think you have to treat the people that are paying attention like friends. Social media is like a huge cocktail party. It's two-way conversations, and yet so many people don't take time to talk back. There's this big broadcast, feel from a lot of businesses, and they don't take the time to talk to the folks that they engage or that they attract. Well, it's only going to take so long for that audience to realize that you really don't care what they have to say, and they're going to be out of there. They're going to tune into somebody who does care, somebody who is interested in listening to what they have to say, that wants to talk back to them. And that's where the community comes into play. I mean, it takes two-way conversations. It takes people conversing with each other. Conversations are what builds relationships, and relationships are what drive your sales. So there's this old saying that goes like this: people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So if you truly care, then remember that there are real people in your scopes, and they want you to show up, bring value into their lives, and ultimately care about them. I think when you truly care about serving others, it shows up in everything that you share on social media, and it returns to you tenfold. Ultimately, people's time and attention are valuable, and they should be highly prized by us. That's the key, I think, across the board to actually bringing more and more people into your community, whether it's on Periscope or whether it is on any social platform. All of those are critical paths, in my opinion, to building relationships that drive sales. Okay, let's talk about 8 proven ways that you can get your first 1,000 Periscope followers. Now, obviously, you need an audience. You want to have more and more people tuning in. You want to attract the right people to your Periscopes. And there's a couple of ways to do this. There's the Jumpstart Guide. There's a couple of ways to do this. There's the Jumpstart way, which is essentially when you sign up for your Periscope account and you connect it to Twitter. There's 2 ways. There is the initial most loved folks on Periscope. And I just would caution you not to follow all of those people out the gate, simply because some of their content might not be, stuff that you want to follow. I would encourage you to check them out and see if they have content that it seems appealing to you before you just randomly follow them. And then obviously when you connect your Twitter account to your Periscope account, Periscope will also pull in your Twitter followers, and you can, of course, go down and see who is on your Twitter that's actually on Periscope, and you can follow those people if you so choose to do so. And then, you're going to attract followers as well. And I think that starts with your bio. You need to have a rockin' bio. What's in it for them is critical, just like it is on any social platform. You need to make sure that you're clear on what you do, how you solve a problem for them, and ultimately, hashtag be worth following. It's important to let people know who you are, what you do, and how you can solve a problem for them. And then I think it's also important to use a professional photo. And I would prefer if I had, if I was going to connect with somebody. So I always look at this. Okay, if I'm going to connect with somebody, what am I looking for? I'm looking for a smiling face, not a frowny face, not a picture of a cat or a dog. I'm looking to actually connect with a person. Now, if you have a logo or, you are a business, then you could use you could use your business logo for sure. But again, Periscope is a person to person thing. And, if there's somebody that's going to be in charge of your Periscope strategy, and is going to be doing the majority of the periscopes, then you might consider, leveraging that photo, so that again, people have an opportunity to connect to that face to the person that they're actually seeing on Periscope. And I think content's critical. Let people know what they can consistently expect from you. Very, very important. Your title is probably, not probably, it is humongous, because that is one of the things that people take a look at to see if they actually are interested in your content or coming into your scopes. And if you can get people into your scopes, the chances of getting them to follow you are pretty good, because they're going to, assuming your content is solid every time. That goes back to the tip that I just gave you. Your content has to be good. If you don't have a great title, or you forget to put in a title, and don't panic if you forget to put in a title, because it happens to all of us, especially when we first get started, then it'll just show up in the feed like this. So if you're just taking a look at this, you'll notice that the one that's untitled, would you go into that one? Because you have no clue what you're going to see if you do. Versus some of the others, like, you might want to pop into the creativity tips for writers and other creatives. That kind of has an attention grabbing title. And you'll also notice that a lot of people use emojis, and those are eye catching. So I would encourage you to use some emojis. Don't go over the top with them, but definitely leverage emojis, because again, they do draw eyeballs, and they might get people to pop into your scopes. And then one quick tip, please use your notes, or, on your iPhone, it's notes. I know on Android it's called something else, but you still have that functionality where you can actually type in your title, and then you can come back. I would copy that and then paste it into Periscope when you're ready. There's a couple of value propositions for this. One, you get it all typed out. You can, look at it, pay attention, make sure you have it right. There's no misspellings, that kind of thing. The neat part is when you're actually in Periscope, if you're, fumbling around and you're trying to get set up, sometimes it turns itself off depending on how your phone is set up. If there's a delay and, it closes down after a certain amount of time. While you're trying to get set up, your title will go away inside of the Periscope app. So the nice part about it is if you've used your notes, then all you have to do is paste it back in, and it takes like 1 second to do so. So that's a great time saver for you. And I just thought I'd throw that tip in there real quick. And then please, please, please connect Twitter. Make sure that your Twitter post icon, it's actually, when you go to the broadcast screen, it's the fourth little icon over. It's a little Twitter bird. The value for this is that when your Periscope goes live, when you hit that broadcast button, it's also shared to your Twitter account. The interesting part is that people watch your Periscopes from within the app on their phone, and they'll get notified, incidentally, when you do go live. Quick note on this, guys. Did you know the open rate on notifications, aka text, because that's essentially what it is about 90%. Now, who has an email open rate like that? So it's pretty responsive. People are usually pretty responsive. If you have good content and they see your scoping, they'll pop in immediately. That will be a value proposition for you going forward as you build out your community, obviously. But people also watch the Periscopes from the link that's tweeted to Twitter. So they can click on that link and go to a web page where they can watch you live. So you're going to have people watching you from their phone. You're also going to have people watching you from a web browser. So that's why it's so important that you connect your Twitter account. And then you can also use location. Now, I would suggest that you only use location if it makes sense to do so. Like if you're home, for example, I would not recommend that you use it. But if you're at an event, or you're, at a coffee shop, etc., then absolutely leverage this, because people find you on the map feature inside of Periscope. So that is one way right now in particular that a lot of people are finding people to tune into, is they're going to the map feature. And if you've leveraged the little location icon on your Periscope session, then people can find your content by simply, clicking on the map. And then one last tip as it relates to, basically, getting more reach and getting more followers on Periscope is to use If This Then That. It's a website, ifttt.com, to set up a recipe so that when your broadcast is tweeted to Twitter, then it will also be shared to your Facebook profile or to your Facebook fan page, or perhaps both. That way you can get some additional reach and share that again to within your other communities, your other social communities, which is important. Okay, let's talk finally. How do we use this for business? How do you use Periscope to sell your products and services and grow your business? I love the fact that we can do product launches literally on Periscope. Now, obviously, and this is no newsflash, I think Apple is the king of product launches. I mean, millions of people, they either tune in to watch or rewatch every time they have a new product launch, right? And they'll line up for days in advance to get a new iPhone. So while our product launches may not be quite that popular, live casting has always been a great way to generate some buzz around your brand. But since, you can't currently schedule your live cast on Periscope, promoting your product launches in advance can be a bit of a challenge, but not undoable. But what I have done is literally just get on Periscope. I did a product launch not long ago on Periscope. Didn't do the traditional, weeks in advance kind of stuff, doing the video promos, none of that stuff. I just sat down in front of my phone and I told people what it was, why it solved their problem, and I created 5 figures in sales in 20 minutes using this strategy. Never, ever have I ever been able to do that before. Because think about it. Normally, we do a bunch of other things to do a product launch. There's an email series. Well, even with emails, it takes a while. People will, check their email at periodic rates or periodic times. So the sales are going to come in, slower. That's what's so interesting. You have a captive audience in front of you, and as long as you tell them what's in it for them and why they need it and why it solves a problem for them, they buy. It's incredible, incredible. It's the fastest sales process I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of people doing live tutorials. I think they're extremely effective to sell products and services as well. I see it's incredible too that there's a lot of businesses that this would be well suited for, and yet they're really not embracing this yet. But people are loving the live tutorials. Just as a quick example, I have a lady in my Periscope course who she's a cartoonist, so she draws caricatures, and she actually did one of me today live on Periscope. People loved it. So she's got all of this interest in her business, and she's selling. They're either wanting her to do them on Periscope, or they're wanting to purchase their own from her. So it was a huge, huge opportunity for her to showcase her talent. But let's just take it back to something that's maybe more of a DIY type of thing. Simply like, cakes. Maybe you make cakes or desserts. If that's the case, you could showcase that, do a live tutorial, and you're like, well, how's that really, sell stuff? But perhaps you use certain things like a pastry bag or a spreading knife or a cake stand. People are going to ask you, well, where do I get those things? And as long as you sell them, you can refer them to your website. Again, a great way to sell products and or services, leveraging the live tutorial. People love behind the scenes tours. I will say that one of the people that I think has done the best job of this on Periscope is a gentleman by the name of Chocolate Johnny. We all know him as Chocolate Johnny. He owns a brick and mortar and a warehouse, and a factory, chocolate store in Australia. And his business has exploded since he has been doing this on Periscope. He literally will walk into his factory where they're making salted caramels, for example, and he shows people what he's doing, how they do it. He's even, to my understanding, is even trying to, he's looking into to maybe opening a warehouse here in the U.S. simply because his business, he's getting so much additional business from the U.S. based on the periscopes that he's been doing. He never had U.S. business before, incidentally, guys. This is, or a very few or very little U.S. business. So love it. People love it. Love being able to see those unplanned or unrehearsed, or even if they are planned and rehearsed, people still love it. They love seeing behind the scenes. Promos are an excellent strategy. It works really well alongside product launches or maybe even tutorials. If your followers are tuned in to see a new product or to learn how to use one of your products, why don't you offer an exclusive discount? Or better yet, make your discount or promo code time limited. Maybe it's valid for 30 minutes at the end of your broadcast or something like that, to where you can drive action immediately and drive sales more specifically immediately. And it's really interesting. You may be thinking, well, what Q&As? How does that drive sales? I think the reason this is so impactful is because viewers can post live comments in your Periscope stream. You can answer questions live on the air. Hootsuite was doing amazing stuff with Periscope when it first launched using this strategy. So they would have a casual chat format. They would have hundreds of followers tuning in, asking questions, offering feedback, and inquiring even about jobs. And they report that this one strategy led to surprising levels of trust and increased sales, which, it does stand to reason. So, it's a great way to show up and give customer service, give an opportunity for your community to ask questions of you and give value back to them by honoring their investment in your company. That alone, in my opinion, is such a great way to attract additional customers your way, because they see how engaged you are, how responsive you are to your existing customer base. It's an amazing way, again, to do business using the power of Periscope. So maybe I've convinced you that, this isn't one more thing, but yet you're like, okay, how can I do one more thing? Well, let me restate that. Maybe I've convinced you that Periscope is something that you might want to step into, but again, you're like, okay, how can I do one more thing? Do I have the time? Do I have the resources? Do I have, a team in place that's going to be able to do this for me? And so I would just like to encourage you to step back from it and basically try to leverage things that you're already doing and bring them into the Periscope environment. Live casting is, again, an opportunity to do some of the things that we're already doing. So writing blog content, for example, can be very time consuming, yet we know our content. So if we were to sit down and tell people 3 ways to do X versus sitting down and trying to write that, how much faster do you think that would go? Also, we're not so worried about being perfect. We're just speaking it. It's a normal human conversation. We're sharing in our tone, in our voice, a way to do something, and it's a way to solve a problem and provide a solution to someone's problem. So take that blog post or that Periscope session and go to Fiverr or hire a transcriptionist and have them transcribe that. Now you have a blog post that took you less time simply because you were able to speak it instead of having to sit down and write it. I've seen people do podcasts on their Periscope sessions. In fact, I was interviewed, Shalene Johnson interviewed me on Periscope live, and then she stripped that audio and used that for her podcast. Same time, and it didn't take her any additional time, yet she was able to connect to a different audience with the same message and get more reach from it. Interviews are also a great way. We, as business owners, many of us do absolutely interview other folks. Again, this is a great way to be front-facing, include a community in that, build and let people see into that in a way that's real and raw and authentic. People love it. And then, guys, honestly, we are using something that the wheels haven't even been built on, in my opinion. This is going to be a really interesting journey to watch this flesh out. Live casting is still in its infancy from the standpoint of it being on a mobile device anyway. But it's obviously it's going to be really exciting to see what a difference it's going to make for businesses. While you may be hard pressed to get thousands of people at a time to view your live cast, the timeliness and the intimacy of a live interactive broadcast make them well worth your while out the gate, and you will absolutely build into the thousands as you go. When I started, I had just a handful of people watching me. Now, on average, I have, over 1,000, sometimes 2,000 people every time I do a Periscope session. Again, an incredible opportunity and to get in front of people that care about your products or your services, and more specifically the content that you're bringing to the table, the value that you're bringing into their lives and into their businesses. It is the fastest path that I have ever seen to the know, like, and trust factor. So hopefully I've convinced you. I am excited to share this with you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. You'll find me at kimgarst.com. I'm on Twitter and most all of the social platforms as Kim Garst. And I want to thank you so much for your time and attention. And I hope to see you on a Periscope soon.